Let's see what's in store with the dating doctor. Welcome to the Open to Love show. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Horsley, with my love and partner and fiance,
Dr. Frank Powers, and I'm here with my love.
So Frank and I, as you know, have written the best-selling book.
It's the best-selling book that we have.
Called Open to Love, The Secrets of Senior Dating. And we're going to talk with this couple today a little bit for you about who's senior.
And they have a book.
Well, yes,
Well,
Casey Mulligan Walsh.
This one.
So Casey Mulligan Walsh writes, she's a writer, Frank. She's been writing for a long time. This is a fabulous book, and we're going to let Casey talk a little bit about herself. Kevin's been involved in Leadership Institute. He can talk about that.
Let them tell us all about themselves and the audience that we're.
All right. So besides writing the full Catastrophe, which is out right now, you can get it on Amazon. Casey, tell us about you.
Wow. Well, let's see. I am a writer. I've been writing for quite a long time. I'm a retired speech language pathologist. So I had a 20-year career working with 3 to 21-year-olds. And both Kevin and I have been retired almost 10 years now. And, you know, one of the things you worry about when you retire or you focus on is still having passions and, you know, things that you're interested in. And one of the things that's evolved for both of us, I have familial hypercholesterolemia. It's the genetic form of extremely high cholesterol. It's very common, but not frequently accurately diagnosed. And so I trained to become an ambassador for this foundation in January of 2018. Kevin came along because it is a family issue, a family disorder. And because he's had a lot of experience in legislative advocacy, he decided to become an ambassador too. So for almost 8 years now, we've been really doing that work together, which is between writing and this passion for this foundation. We're probably busier than we were when we worked. So I think that's a really important thing as we get older to have passions and interests.
Absolutely.
And Kevin is also working with another foundation. I'll let him tell you about that a little bit.
Okay. Well, yeah, as Casey mentioned, we're both retired. Prior to that, as you mentioned, I had a career in child welfare and juvenile justice. And as mentioned, as we went into retirement, I also, looking to see what else we could do to keep our purpose or our interest alive. And one of the first things, as Casey mentioned, in 2017, Casey was going down to the Family Heart Foundation to be trained. As she's mentioned, I used to do some legislative advocacy. I actually initially went down with the hopes of spending 4 days meeting some friends that I used to work with because I wasn't involved with the program. However, the first night I was there, hearing the stories and the purpose of the Family Heart Foundation, as you said, I volunteered to become an ambassador, and quite frankly, I've been doing that ever since, and it's been really great.
Awesome.
Well, certainly you have a lot in your life that you both love and you have passion for life. What about your relationship?
Yeah, I wanted to know how they met first.
Yeah, we want to know how you fell in love and all the wonderful things about your connection.
Well, we met on Match.
Match.com. Okay.
Match.com, although I've been told it's cooler now to just say Match. We don't say .com. I just learned this. But it was in the early days in 2001.
Yeah.
And so when online dating was not, it wasn't brand new, but it wasn't as ubiquitous as it is now. And so many people we meet now, if we eventually tell them we met on Match, will say, oh, we did too, or we know 5 other people who did, but it wasn't as common back then.
Actually, excuse me, to the point where it was really uncomfortable for me to get into that.
And how did you get into it? Tell us, because so many people are talking
How did
about
you overcome your discomfort? Because a lot of people have the same issue.
Well, it's hard, but yet it's simple. You just have to take the step. I mean, it isn't uncomfortable because you feel, I think then, especially then, not now, it felt kind of awkward. I kind of felt like, this is kind of odd. I feel kind of
Now, did
I
you
don't know
come
what-
from divorce or a death, or did you both were involved with divorce or?
Both divorced.
Yes, I had been divorced for a few years, and particularly as my two children had been living with me, but just around then, both of them were in college, so I was a free single person. And therefore then I had more time to spend searching Match.com.
Yeah.
And that was really, it was getting over that awkwardness at first.
Did you get support from your children and your family to go on?
They didn't know.
Not really. They
No.
didn't know. They knew I would be, but at that time, it wasn't like a comfortable discussion. It wouldn't have been awkward, but no, it would have been, I think, awkward, and that was what it was. So I kind of like avoided it. And, no one asks, I'm not telling.
Yeah.
That was kind of like that.
What's interesting for us is that my kids knew in real time that I was on Match, and that's how I met Kevin. Kevin's kids didn't know that. So for, this was 24 years ago, right? And so over the years, I thought that they didn't know, but it's in the book, and I thought it might be
Oh, yeah.
news to them, but they're like, oh yeah, we already knew.
They-
I don't know how they knew. And of course, I think the main thing was that Kevin didn't want it to be the most important thing about our relationship, right? Like, here's this woman I met online. It's just better to,
Yeah.
So it was different for both of us. But I'd say that, it was probably only 2 months after I was on Match, maybe 6 weeks, that I met Kevin. But it can be I had several dates ahead of time that were absolutely not a match. And so we both feel very lucky that I kind of knew when I got the first email from him. In fact, I read it to a friend who was on the phone, and she said, invite me to the wedding. Just
What did you
She knew right away.
Did you say, what did you remember?
He talked about, being a devoted parent to his kids, and he enjoyed cycling, and he was working in child welfare, and a lot of those things have a big overlap with the kind of work that I did, and the who I was, and the interests that I had. I don't know. And then we met about 2 weeks later. We lived about an hour apart.
Okay.
And we met a couple of weeks later, and it just was very, there was never the, will he call, or it just was automatically easy.
How did you go on? Did you have a friend help you? Did you do it on your own? What was your?
So for our demographic, I'm unusually tech savvy. I love technology. I've built my own website.
Yeah.
And so I was right there. I worked in a school, and there was another woman there and another friend in the town I lived in who had been on Match. So at least I hit a little road.
Frank and I feel very strongly, and we talk about it in our book, that you need to have a dating buddy. If you can
I
get
kind of did. Yeah.
support you to look through the pictures with you, to talk about. Kevin, did you have any dating buddy, or did you do it on your own?
No, but
No.
here's the funny thing,
Let-
when you say pictures, I had not written to him because he didn't have a picture. And I wasn't writing to anybody who didn't have a picture. And so after the first email or two, I said, like, would you please send me a picture? And then,
Which,
we
by
were
the way, I
good
wanted
from there.
to complete that story. I did not know how to put a picture on the computer.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of
I went
people
in-
that
This
don't.
was quite a while ago. Yeah, that
Well,
was
yeah, well, it was
that's a new
Frank,
thing.
not a while ago, even now. And one of the
Oh,
things
yeah.
we recommend is get a grandkid to help you.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. It would have been
Not
fun.
Get
necessarily
someone who's
do it.
tech savvy. Yes.
Yeah.
Also, you also have to remember that we were like 47 and 54, so we weren't in the demographic we're in now.
Yeah.
And so it was a little bit different. And in my job, I needed to know how to do those things. But Kevin had a administrative assistant who did everything for him
Yeah,
at work. So he didn't have to know how
So
to
is
do that.
technology, the use of technology? I mean, I wasn't in my whole history ever keyboard literate. I've been forced to become that over the years by
Yeah.
surviving, right? But no, I really, so it wasn't just that. So yeah, you should have saw me on the like responding to something. I was bum. I mean, I wasn't exactly hitting the keys
He
quickly.
comes from the dictaphone generation.
But
Yes, but you have to realize that the people we're talking to right now are your age.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
it's
We're
Yeah.
talking about our book of senior dating, and,
Right,
and
right.
our open
Yeah.
love is kind of a
And
safer
and for
side.
these people, it's a challenge usually.
All the things you're talking about are a big
Yeah,
challenge.
exactly. That's the reason we say, get hold of your grandkids, get a
Yeah.
hold of someone who's younger, who's more tech savvy and
Mhm.
used to doing things online, and
Right.
they'll help you through the process. And they kind of enjoy it. They get a big kick out of helping us.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would, if anybody felt awkward about that now, I would suggest they not. I think people would really like to do something like that. I think that would make them feel happy, and you would probably
Yes.
be really
A lot
surprised,
more
pleasantly
support than you
surprised.
got from your kids and
Well,
Right.
From
And
your kids,
yeah.
forget it. You want people, well, if you're listening to this, you're not necessarily going to get support from your kids, and particularly once you start dating.
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
But you might have a friend who's a little more tech savvy than you are. The other thing, something just came to mind. We talk often about, when I met Kevin, I don't know if you've read my book yet, but had gone through some very difficult things, and I was in a pretty rural town, and there was instant messenger that was helpful. But I think all those years ago, if we'd been able to be as connected through social media as we are now, that, people say a lot of negative things about social media, and actually like Match or online dating is kind of an extension of that. However, it's got such potential to help people not feel isolated and to be,
Well, the thing you just said, one word, rural.
yeah,
And we have so many people talk to us about their, in a small town or whatever, what am I gonna do? I'm waiting for my neighbor to introduce me to somebody.
right.
I'll
You
get
can wait
introduced.
forever. Yes.
And
know.
I knew I didn't want to meet my next husband in a bar somewhere, And
Yeah.
what do you do, right? It's true.
Exactly.
That's
How do
right.
you do it?
The only game in town for many people.
That's
So
right.
I mean,
I think for
I was in a circumstance where I was relatively isolated.
Yeah.
I mean, I worked and I actually lived at the facility where I was working. It was a huge campus. I mean, it's 1,400 acres. It was a huge, but it was a small town in
And
Columbia
rural.
County, New York, and rural things. So there wasn't any access. And so my circle of friends, for the most part, were the people I worked with at that time. You know, so having this opportunity to get on the computer is as daunting as it was feeling at first. I was motivated to change my life, to change around, and that's really probably motivated me the
Yeah.
most.
How about the fear of being scammed? We hear a lot about that. In fact, we've got an email from somebody right here, says, my wife died 6 months ago. He says, and my daughter thinks it's too early for me to date. What do you think? And she's also afraid that I'll be scammed,
Yeah.
and people will only want me for my money.
I think that I did know someone all those years ago who had an online relationship with someone for like a year. And when it became possible for them to actually meet, he completely disappeared. I think he had a wife and a family. In my situation, all of the people, like maybe three people that I was either talking to or dated, I drove someplace, I met them in person. They clearly were, who they seemed to be. But oddly, when Kevin drove an hour to where I lived, um, for some reason, I just didn't feel like I needed to meet in a third place in a safe situation. He came to my house, we walked to dinner, but there were so many indicators that this was a genuine person with a real life and job. But you do have to be careful. I think that's important
Yeah.
for people to have their antenna up for things that don't feel quite authentic.
And Casey, I like what you said, meet in person. You met him
Yeah.
in person.
Absolutely. And one of the things is that I think people can kind of neutralize the scamming possibilities if you say to yourself, I'm not going to give money under any circumstances to
Never.
anyone
Okay.
else
Never.
that I meet online.
No.
And if I don't do that, there's no motivation for the scammer. So right up front, you just don't give money to anyone.
I think I've heard this a lot in general about online dating, and I would agree with it, which is get off the texting and the emailing and meet in person
them
as
in
soon
person.
as possible, because it's very easy, especially as you're older and you're feeling vulnerable and
You can fall in
lonely.
love with a fantasy.
That's exactly right. Or to feel so connected to this person, and then you meet them, and even if it's not a scam, they're not right for you, but you've got this bond now.
Yes,
And
yes. You fall in love with the fantasy, and that's one of the dangers about not meeting a person in person.
right, I
Mm.
agree.
I'd like to add one part, because there was two parts to what you brought up. You said the person mentioned that it was too soon to do something.
Mm,
Yes, right.
Mhm.
You know, that's the individual person's prerogative to define what that is, you know, and I understand the relation. Don't get me wrong. If it's your family member, if your child, or whatever it might be, you value their input. It's not like you dismiss it, but they also have to understand you're your own person too, and you have a right to move forward when you feel, despite what everybody else, maybe somebody has another perception. I don't know. I'll use the example. Maybe, somebody passed away and they feel it's not long enough. And I think it's each person has their own right to define what that means, the length of time.
You have to determine for yourself whether you're ready or not.
Yeah.
And there's lots of indications about whether you're ready or not. And some of those we brought up in our book, and we put it in there for people so that they could have some criterion about, well, am I ready or am I not ready? But I agree with you, Kevin. It's really an individual decision.
I think the way you asked the question was good though, because those two things go hand in hand, right? If you're not quite ready and you're feeling really vulnerable and desperate to not be lonely, I think that it's easier to fall prey to a scam because you have such need.
You're
I
vulnerable.
had been through a really difficult marriage and a really horrible divorce, and I felt very strongly that I wasn't going to make a big mistake. I was going to be really careful because I'd paid dearly for the mistake that I had made. And so, as lonely as I wasn't just looking for any port in a storm, right? Like it had to be the right person.
Yeah.
Mhm. It's one of the things that I've heard men talk to, and Frank's and I've talked about it, is sometimes guys are feeling like, does she like me or not? What can I do? I'm anxious. And if she's not wanting to hug me or kiss me or go to bed with me, then she probably doesn't like
She
me.
didn't like me. Yeah. Which is, really unfortunate.
Right away.
Well, maybe we liked each other right away, but no, no, but I understand that, and anytime I think anybody's in that, as Mike, well, all right, there's that space where you're uncertain and there's an awkwardness. Try to remember that that's kind of it's a natural feeling in that circumstance. It's not, so if you feel that way, you're not wrong,
Yeah.
and it's
It's
natural.
natural, and it'll
Oh,
only go away once you start developing a relationship with someone.
right.
You feel comfortable and that you're liked.
Oddly, I always felt it's more, for me anyway, it was more uncomfortable to be around somebody who liked you more than you liked them. Like I wasn't as worried about, not that I had like millions of people, but if somebody's really pushing and you have to kind of keep them at arm's length, to me, that's more uncomfortable, you
Mhm.
know?
Yes.
I guess
Yeah.
But no, but somebody in that, I'm going to repeat that because I think it's so important that that's not a bad situation it's not a wrong situation to be in. It's probably a normal response to feel that awkwardness. So understand it's normal, there's nothing wrong. It's just part of the transition to getting to the right place.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. I encourage men that I had in practice to say, try to develop a friendship first. See if you really like the person before you push them into any kind of romantic relationship. See if you enjoy them. And at this point in their life, usually as you're older, it's more that you want to have someone who you enjoy doing things with, that you have some similarity in your interests, like the two of you got together because you had some similar interests and passions. So that was good.
Yeah, we've got an email here from Barbara, which I think is interesting. Uh, she says, my son encouraged me to go online dating and actually helped me. And then when I started talking to him about some of the people that I was connecting with, and had a few concerns about them, he suddenly said, "Oh,
Oh,
Mom,
this isn't good for you, Mom.
yeah, what are your thoughts?" And he actually said to me, quote, "I don't think that you're ready to do online dating."
Well, maybe that has to do with what her response was to these people. You know, maybe, I mean, maybe he was feeling like she was still vulnerable, or, you know, I think you just have to ask yourself, what's your motivation, right? Like, as you said, Frank, I think it's important to want to have a friendship with someone, and
Mm.
to be able to be in the position where if you know that person is incompatible with you, you're not so desperate to do it, you're going to hang on no matter what.
Exactly.
And maybe, Barbara, you also need to think about getting other people involved.
Besides your son.
So when you get afraid or whatever, you can talk to them about it. Or silly, your kids don't want to hear about your romance either.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah, I mean, like,
No.
no.
I mean, it doesn't matter how old you are. If you are with somebody, you get giddy and silly and talk about.
Too much information.
I think peers are probably a better source of that kind of conversation. You know, it's great to
Maybe
get
am I.
get your kids or your grandkids to do the tech stuff with you, but they're also don't need to be your confidant.
Yes, exactly.
But, you know, as we said, when somebody's meeting somebody, and you're looking for develop a relationship, the obvious thing to remember, even though in the moment it's hard sometimes, it's a process that has to happen over some time. It doesn't happen, as I say, it's not an event, it's a process. And those can be, there are times of uncertainty because you're feeling something else, you're feeling out some emotional stuff that's extremely important to you, and you don't want to feel more vulnerable.
Right.
But I think it's an inherent part of that uncertainty is an inherent part. And I would say I'm sounding like an expert, and I had a hard time with that. I mean, I was uncertain about, unsure of myself, a lot of things.
We were talking earlier about our book is Open to Love, The Secrets of Senior Dating. And you guys were saying, oh, we were in our
40s and 50s.
And I said, well, most people don't live to be 110. And so I hate to say it, folks that are listening, 50 is middle age. The only reason I want to say this to you is this. I have met so many women who are in their 50s who are waiting until their children get older and taking care of their kids until they date. And I want to say to them,
No.
it gets less and less chance for you if you don't step out and do it now. Your kids will grow up, they
That's
will
right.
be off on their way, and you will say, oh, aha, now I can start dating.
Having a life of your own, having relationships of your own, I think makes you a better parent. I think you can be so overly focused on your kids that everything is huge to you, and you're really living vicariously through them, and that's not doing them any favors either.
Yeah, very good point. I wish more people could hear that because it's really important
We
for
were
them
just
to know
counseling
that.
with somebody the other day whose sons are older right now, and we were helping her build her profile.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we talked to her about is you need to tell people what you want in your profile, not I like to hike, I like to climb mountains, I
Yeah.
like to
Walk
whatever.
on the beach.
Yeah,
This
Right.
is what I'm looking for, and
Yes.
if you feel that you meet this, please let me know.
Yeah.
I'll just insert because I always laugh about this. I was 47 and Kevin wrote me and he was 54. And I thought, "Ugh, I can't date a guy who's 54." Like that was just sounds so
Whoa.
old to me.
yeah.
It's
Well,
so
has it hadn't,
funny.
I guess hadn't reached middle age. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It was funny, but I laugh about it now at 71 that I
Isn't
didn't
that
think I
nice that you can
yeah,
laugh about it? Yes.
yeah.
Absolutely. So the age factor, get out and do it whenever,
Yeah.
Yes.
you
And
know.
soon, yeah, you don't have to wait until your children leave.
No, absolutely not.
If you'd had a really happy marriage and you lost your spouse, I think that's a whole different, I write a lot about grief, that grief you need to give yourself time, and
Mhm.
I think it would be very different. I was coming out of a very difficult long-term marriage and was so happy isn't the word, but it was just so fulfilling to me to see what it was like to be in a relationship of equals where there wasn't always drama and conflict. And I think it would have been very different if I had been really happily married and my husband had died. But I can't speak to it because that's never happened to me.
Yeah, no,
know?
neither nor I, but I could understand somebody because they're going through feelings of am I doing what's right? Is this like,
Right.
it's almost like they might feel guilty of it, like it's like something that even though their partner had passed, it might feel like, this isn't honoring them the right way. I shouldn't really do it. I don't have I'm overstating this, but I don't have a right to be happy when somebody.
Kevin, you're not overstating it. You
Yeah.
have to work through that
Sure,
guilt
I think
and,
it's a
and
very hard
at the
process.
time. But I will tell you, I had a wonderful relationship with my husband, and I have a wonderful relationship with Frank. And I try to tell people, there's a lot of love out there. I mean, I love both these guys dearly.
Yes.
But one of the things that's really important in my relationship with Frank is he can talk about my late husband. He knows who he is. He's not defensive.
Yeah,
Uh,
I don't have to feel competitive. He was a wonderful guy, and I'm a wonderful guy.
And guess what?
He's got two.
Wonderful guy, lucky you.
And guess what? In defense of some of the interesting things about having a spouse die is he's not around.
Right.
Yeah.
True.
To bug anybody, there's not any conflict about where you go for Christmas or Thanksgiving.
Right.
Your kids.
Right.
Right. Oh,
There's a whole world of, that's not
Yeah, there are
problematic.
some differences, and some things are easier, and some things are not as easy.
Yeah, but so knowing, I like to say though, as again, there is so much love in the world and so many people you can love, and
Yes.
you
Yeah.
really need to open yourself to it.
I think we're talking about some things that are just true for dating, no matter how old you are, right?
sure.
Like you're open to love,
Mhm.
but also, I mean, I didn't love dating. I just kind of wanted to be able to skip ahead to that with the
Did
person
any
that
of us really ever love dating?
no, I mean, some people say they
Oh,
do, but I always found it kind of depressing. I just wanted to jump ahead to be at a concert or something with somebody I was comfortable with. And I think that's what happened with us is we were immediately comfortable.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that happened for us too. And it is because we had a lot of similar experiences in life, even though they were at different times, different places. We had a lot in common. And it sounds like you two had a lot in common. And that really is an important factor for success, I think.
But
with-
may I say, that's one of the beauties of online.
Yes.
We were able to put information about ourselves and what we wanted and needed. And that's one of the beauties of
Yeah.
being able to find that match,
Right.
I read her profile and I said, wow, this is a lady I think I could really get to know and like.
And then I read yours, and then I looked at your site, and you're a sculptor, and you've done some of the vetting that you don't do if your neighbor next door happens to introduce you. I was talking to a friend of mine, and she had met Frank, and she said, I wished I hadn't settled. And I said, what? And she said, 10 years ago, I started dating my neighbor who was a real estate agent, and we own houses together. And she said, it's like a business.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
said, I really kind of wished I'd gone online and had a love relationship. So
Mm,
anyway, I want to encourage people to step
Yeah.
out there and try it.
yes.
Yes.
But I want to add though, this as the example you said about yourself and Casey mentioned us, and I want the listeners to think that was the first time our first shot at online dating, and
No.
we did it, and all of a sudden everybody lived happily ever after.
Yeah.
Oh,
They-
no.
You need to be, you need to be, I guess the right word is prepared for things that, they just don't work out. And it's, it's just, you can be
Right.
philosophical and understanding that things don't work out. It wasn't the right match for me, but it still sets you back. You get discouraged and you start to feel a little sad and wondering if this ever going to happen. And then all of a sudden, October 10th,
Yeah, right.
2001, I knocked on the door and
The magic happened.
Avenue A in Cambridge, New York, and I'm still on that first date. I mean, that was one of these, that was just one of those great outcomes.
But time takes on a different quality because I just remember feeling so down and being at a conference with all these women, speech pathologists, and thinking like, every one of those people has somebody that cares about them, or everyone, and having these dates and feeling like I was never going to meet the right person. And I look back and it was like 6 weeks. It was like not that long, but I was it's just, it's an emotional roller coaster no matter what age you are, I think. And so you have to be prepared for that, but still be hopeful.
Right. And we like to talk in our book about post-traumatic growth. You need to try to look at those experiences as a growth experience. Meeting somebody, just stepping out and going online is an adventure, and it's a
And meeting
scary
people
one.
and realizing, wow, some people don't get me and some people I don't get.
All right.
And it's
Right.
really okay. And we now know what it is that's important and what we're looking for by having people that we meet that don't work.
When you
But
know
they
what you
work a
don't
lot.
want. Yes, you're clearer on what you do want. Yeah.
In the book, you will find out how Kevin met Casey.
Ah, there it
All
is.
right.
It's way back towards the end of the book, but it does come up.
All
It's
right.
there. It's there.
I've
Great
started
read.
calling him the husband in the happy ending.
Thank you guys so much for being on the show today.
Yes,
And
it's been wonderful meeting you.
Yes,
you
it was.
too.
This was
Thanks so
great.
much for
Yeah,
having
thank you
us.
very much.
Yeah.
fun. We want to thank them so much for joining us. And again, we want to thank everybody for being on the Open to Love show today. And Frank and I want to tell you to stay open to love,
Yes, please do.
because there's somebody out there for everybody.
Yes.